Hi, I'm Julio Saenz along with Mauricio Riveros. Today on Be Inspired, we'll meet James Smith and learn about his inspiring story from the city of Rochester to being an executive at the YMCA.
You will be inspired.
Celebrating leaders in Rochester's unique and vibrant business community, we'll meet entrepreneurs whose passion and perseverance have helped push through life's challenges. Join us as we share their stories and journeys to success. It's time to be inspired.
James, thank you very much for being inspired. A show that we have developed to interview people like you. Stories that are significant and inspire our community. James, you have been in our community for many years. So tell us, who is James?
Oh, and gentlemen, thank you both for having me today. I'm so honored to be here. And so James, what a great question, right? Who is James? And so I would start by saying this. James is a kid from Rochester, right? Born and raised here. On the west side, actually. West Main, Brown Street, Genesee Street, St. Mary's, now Unity Health, but St. Mary's was my hospital. And it was a great community. Some of the challenges that we faced in that community that make up James were the fact that some of our families were single-parent households. And so in that, I had the blessing of staying with my grandfather with my mom. And at that time, I was dealing with the fact that my mom was working 2 jobs and my grandfather was getting ill. And so I saw her struggling with making ends meet. And so I began to notice other opportunities in the community to help my mom. And so when I say other opportunities, we talk about role models, right? We talk about some of the challenges that our community faces today. You know, there is drugs, there is some violence, and there are individuals that are, you know, working together to do things to help, but unfortunately, they're not helping. So gang life. And for me, James was a kid considering what that might be because I knew some of those role models, because negative or positive, people that are influential and charismatic and pay attention to you can really inspire you either way. But I noticed that they had some affluence, they had some resources, and my mom was really having a hard time taking care of myself and my grandfather. And so I began to contemplate what that would look like as my grandfather lays on the couch coughing and ill, and my mother doesn't get home until 11 o'clock at night. And so when some of the individuals from my community started to ask, you know, hey, Jay, we can help you out, man. We see you struggling. I started to listen. And I was blessed to have, you know, friends in the community, brothers I grew up with. There were 4 of us total that were like, hey, you know, James, stay strong. I remember one funny story about my journey to where I am today was riding the bus home from school. And I'm sitting in the back of the bus, and it's time for me to get off. And some of the kids on the bus are those kids who are struggling just like I am, but they're making decisions to help in whatever way they can. And they've been asking me to join that kind of world. And so I've been fighting it, but it's hard. But my bus driver, and I wish I could remember her name to this day, she was an amazing woman. She'd always call me to the front and give me a fresh head start. And she'd say, baby, come here. I'm like, yes, ma'am. And she'd say, you ready? I said, yes, ma'am. And she'd open that door and let me bolt out of there. And through the backyards of some of the neighbors, up Eddy Street and right to Brown Street, and hold them back for a little bit and give me a chance to start. And so that was the beginning of my journey, and it was hard. And so that's when I started to decide, you know what, am I going to still run? Do I want to run? My mom is still struggling. My grandfather's still ill. And as I was contemplating finally making that decision, an amazing mentor came into my life. And he saw something in me that I did not see in myself. Now, when I met him, I found out he was ex-Special Forces Green Beret. And so my assumption, gentlemen, was, whoa, this guy is going to be difficult to work with. He's going to be hard-nosed. He's going to expect discipline, and I'm not quite sure if I'm ready for this. But he wasn't. He was the personification of love, compassion. He listened to me. He pushed me, asked me questions. What do you really want to do with your future? And I told him, I don't want to be on the street corner. I want to do something different, but I want to help my mom. So this man decided to help my mother and I by moving to a different environment, different community altogether, to give me a fresh start in a new school, to focus on my education, not to worry about running from the bus anymore, just going to class. It was unbelievable. Like, what? Why? The questions I would ask myself, this gentleman basically fell in love with me and saw me as a surrogate son and said, I want to help you. But he gave me that fresh start. And oh, by the way, he fell in love with my mom. and they got married later. But I didn't realize how blessed I was and how blessed we were. So fast forward, I'm a teenager. Remember, I mentioned a few friends that kept me strong on the bus and in the community. They were still in the same community, same circumstance, same challenges. And they didn't get a chance to leave or have the same type of mentor come into their lives. And I lost one, no longer on this earth. Another one is probably facing a life term. Another one I cannot find to this day. And then there's me. And I think all the time, what's the difference between the four of us? All fairly bright kids from the same neighborhood, cared about each other, and we worked hard in school when we weren't, being knuckleheads on occasion.
Sure.
It was the mentor. It was the person that came into our lives and changed my trajectory. And so when I went to college and became the first person in my family to go to college, I felt this strong pull to help someone else. And so at SUNY Brockport, I began an internship at Louis Street Incorporated. And there I found kids and families just like my mother's and mine. And I felt this is the place I need to be. I wanted to be the individual that my mentor, now my father, was to me. I wanted to be someone that understood the challenges of the street, but also understood there's hope. When you have caring adults and individuals around a family and around a youth, they can reach their dreams. You can inspire them to do everything they want to do in life, but you have to be able to be fully present. So more of us have to be around to build resilience. And I felt strongly that you don't have to leave an environment, because I left one, but my brothers didn't. Those three brothers of mine didn't. So people like us come back to a community and be a part of a solution, because there's more caring adults and young people in every pocket of this great city than we realize. But sometimes we're disconnected. And so I started my journey there as an intern from Brockport. And from that point on, I was given an opportunity to work part-time and then full-time. And we were with a different agency called Louis Street Incorporated, and we were renovating one of our facilities on 53 Louis Street in Market View Heights neighborhood. And while we're doing that, we found out, unfortunately, that the facility wasn't going to be able to open the way it was intended. There was some financial stuff on the backside that I didn't know because I was a young college kid. And so at that time, at the ribbon cutting, and I have two of my students with the shovels in the hand and the helmets on their heads, breaking ground, the leader of the agency I was working for and the leader of the YMCA, George Rommel, were standing together. And when George heard that this place was a gorgeous facility for early childhood, before and after school, family services, you name it, wasn't going to open as intended, he said, well, hold on, let's have a conversation. So the board at Louis Street Incorporated, now the great organization called Community Place of Greater Rochester, the board at the YMCA, United Way, George, our leader, came together and said, hold on a second, we're going to lease this facility, we're going to run it, we're going to hire all these amazing staff, and we're going to serve this community. Now that's when I took the whole Y Kool-Aid. They talk about drinking the Y Kool-Aid. You might hear that. That's when I knew the Y was special, because it believed, just like I believe, that you can be a presence in any community. You can be a mentor. You can build resilience if you believe in it and if you invest in it. And the Y at that time invested in that community. And so I fell completely head first for the YMCA at that point. And we all got fired together and all got hired together and became YMCA employees. And from that point on, I was able to grow within the YMCA and take the same vision I have with you guys right now, the same passion I have right now for helping to be a mentor and role model for others, and expand it from a full-time, coordinator in after school to an assistant director of program to a director of an entire program to an executive director for an entire facility to a district exec for a region of our urban programming, and now director of development and community engagement for the Association of Greater Rochester.
James, what a journey! What a journey! What an incredible story! And really, you are inspiring us. Now, let me ask you this important question.
Yes.
You are working with the community.
Yes.
What is the biggest challenge that you see today in Rochester community to multiply your experience, multiply what you have experienced? What is that? What is not allowing us to achieve what people and your mentor were able to achieve with you?
Yes, so I think it's just getting alignment. So finding the alignment in Rochester. There are amazing organizations, foundations, agencies, non-for-profit and for-profit, in this community, in Rochester itself as the city, and then surrounding Monroe County. It's finding the alignment. You know, you've heard about the Anti-Poverty Initiative, our MAPI, Dr. Brock and others like that. Amazing work. But it's finding the alignment from urban to suburban and to rural. How do we come together as a greater community to say, this is what we're going to accomplish, this is what we want to do, right? We want to have a systemic impact on poverty. What does that look like? How do we as a community and agencies and organizations come together and say, let's put our flags aside for a moment, whatever flag that may be, the Y, the city, whatever that might be, and let's think about how do we find common ground for the families we want to serve. And then once we get that alignment, and I feel like it's close. I feel like there's a lot of wonderful, caring people and organizations in this community right now. So once we find the alignment, it's meeting our community where they are. And not just one segment of our community, the entire community. So if it's in the urban environment, if it's in the suburban environment, or the rural, how do we meet them where they are so we can have conversation? The biggest thing, I think, Marcio, to answer your question, sir, is the conversation of finding common ground. Going back to that place and meeting each population where they are and then talking about it. If we're going to have a real impact on institutional poverty, we're going to have to do that. And once we start having that type of alignment, you're going to see a tremendous change in Rochester. We have a beautiful city, amazing resources here. We have some of the most affluent communities around Rochester, and we have some economically deprived communities within Rochester. So 15 minutes away from each other, how do we build that bridge? One of my responsibilities at the Y is to be a part of building those bridges. In my conversations with the community, I'm hearing so much synergy. So now the next step in that process is getting together. Where do we need as an organization to be at the table? What seat should we sit at so we can support and be a convener sometimes? Maybe not the lead team or the lead organization at the table, just a convener, so there's conversation happening to build that type of bridge.
Thank you so much. We'll be right back with more of our interview with James Smith of the YMCA. I think those are very good points, and I think really illustrates how it has to be a community effort, and
Absolutely.
Everybody has to work together on it. Now the Y, you know, most people just know it to be this place you go and you work out. There may be one in your neighborhood or wherever. What's the geographic area that your organization covers?
That's a great question. So we have 17 operations, 11 branches, but actually, geographically speaking, we have 2 overnight camps, one in Penn, Camp Corey, one in the Adirondacks, Camp Gorham. The YMCA of Corning is a part of our organization. So if you think about that regionally, I mean, we have the breadth and depth of our scope is far-reaching. And so with that, you know, what can we do as an organization, to my earlier point, to create those synergy points for conversation? But yeah, we've expanded our services, and with that brings in the urban-suburban rural connection.
James, how do you see in the next years to come? Let's say in 5, 10 years, Rochester, what is your vision?
Brother, thank you so much for asking that question. So I think in the next 5 or 10 years, a couple things that we see as we wrap up a strategic plan as an organization right now, and we begin to unveil or picture or wall walk our next plan, is what's the next step for us in the city? So reinvestment in the city. So we just talked about operationally the infusion of dollars from a Shotland YMCA. Make sure I get you there. We talked about that. Yeah. And we want to see what's next for some of our urban operations. You know, almost 9 years ago, actually 10 years ago, we reinvested in our Maplewood YMCA on Driving Park. But what's next? You know, for downtown, our Carlson YMCA, or our Lewis Street location. What's next for us to really invest in that community? That's really our next big step of how we see ourselves. You know, we've invested in our suburban operations. Now we want to invest in our urban operations and continue to have each of the boats, as we call them, all the, the wave rises. A rising wave lifts all the boats. That's our plan. Another piece I see in the next 5 or 10 years, and this is really hot off the presses for us, is how do we play a key role in our community to minimize the challenges that we have for families that are working from coming out of poverty and working up to working class to middle class. What role can the YMCA play in helping to minimize that transition from coming out of poverty to becoming an independent wage earner, to getting that amazing first promotion, to finishing college or vocational school? You know, what do we need to do as a charity, as a non-for-profit? What do we need to do in that space? How much more money can we raise? What can we focus on? Can we close that gap? So for us, you know, we talked about this before offline, but we raised nearly $3.1 million last year. I'm sorry, we raised 2.62 million, we gave out 3.1. So we always give out more than we actually raise. For me, we know the need is growing. We see it right now in childcare. We see it right now for our families that need that critical component. So what can we do to minimize that gap? And so those are two pieces that we want to focus on. Raising more awareness, also raising more dollars. But with that, it's raising more friends, telling the story. And that comes with being less siloed, right? So as an organization, again, convener, our partners in the community. Who are our partners now? How do we thank them and engage them further? And who are our next partners so we can actually move together to have collective impact for our community?
Amazing, amazing. And I had no idea that it all goes back into one pot. The success of one of the branches really is, as you said, it's a ripple effect that impacts all of the other organizations. So there's 5 branches in the city?
Yes. Yeah, so we have our Monroe, Southwest, so Monroe location, our Southwest location, our Lewis Street location, our Maplewood location, and our Carlson Metro location right downtown. Those are our 5 operations in the city. And another piece I should mention is we have another program we call our Why Without Walls. And that's our community division, which is kind of cool. It's programs that we operate in collaboration with RCSD, so the city school district. We talk about partnerships. There's another partnership. Talk about working together to have impact on kids and families to help them move the needle for success. So that program, headed by my colleague Todd Wade, our VP of Youth Development, is focused on having program pushed into 10 schools in the school district. And so our enrichment, our curriculum built around supporting the teachers in the school to support them and also the student. It's a powerful piece. If you think about the student's day, right? You're going through, oh my gosh, we've got math, we got history, what's going on? You want to infuse it with some fun or get up and move and also have it impact or connect to the lesson of the day. So that's another piece that we need to make sure we share. Right now, it's a great program. It's expanded with RCSD, with the city, the school district. We're so excited about where that's going. It started with 1, then 2, now 10, and that's just a testament to a partnership and seeing the need in our community. How do we help our students be more successful? And that program, it has metrics, so we measure what's the success. If a student comes into our program here, how is he or she doing here? And so we can make sure we're actually the right curriculum and how it's supporting the teachers in class.
James, I really love how holistic it is, and I love the model. Now, the why, it's also serving the elders.
Yes.
It's serving other community that are out there that, trying to expand the life,
Yes.
There's an element of health and trying to really holistically look the human, from the community aspect, but also from the development aspect. So what is the plan related to that segment of the population, the elder?
So, great question. Right now we have, 4 resource centers, and those resource centers are programs that are focused on having our elders come together. So dealing with isolationism, right? So you think about as our elders grow, sometimes end of life, and they lose loved ones, and they experience that loss, and now they're alone on this journey. Well, the why focuses on having programs and spaces for that demographic, our wise ones, to come together and reconnect. That's a beautiful thing. So when we talk about cradle to career to retirement to new friends, right? So I want to be able to serve 6 weeks, and I want to be able to serve 105 if they're blessed to live that long on this earth. That's the kind of experience or programs we have. So you may come to one of our Ys, Shotland. You may come to one of our.
I want a free pass.
Coming. I got your pass. You're coming to visit. I'm gonna give you a tour. You may come to the Kushner Community Room. You may see you will see this amazing space where you'll see intergenerational groups together. So, someone that may be 30 with someone that may be 70 is sitting, having conversation, breaking bread, talking about a book, but the space is there. And oh, by the way, you can walk down and you can work out and go to a class because it really is that mind, body, spirit, right? We talked about the whole connection. It really is holistic. So we try and I think we do a good job, and we always can do better. And this is why when we talked about it earlier, is we want to provide programs and services for the moms and the dads that have those 6-week, those babies through preschool to school age to teen years. In that transition, we may want to help them with life skills. We want them to volunteer, intern, and come work for us or somewhere else, but I want them to have that option, and that's a part of our program. To young adults, a place to come to be fit and also reconnect. To families, now you got the other side of it. Now you're a young person or you're a young couple and you have your kids. To our, to our empty nesters, kids off to college maybe, and you want a place to come and connect. To our wise ones, to come and find new friends, to be a part of this journey. And so that is the spectrum of life, and that's what we offer.
James, I love your story. I love your passion, and I love what the Y is doing. Thank you so much for being today and Be Inspired, and I'm sure that in the future we'll have you back here telling us more about the exciting things that are happening in the Y. Thank you again.
You're welcome. You're my honor, guys. Thank you so much.
Coming up next week on Be Inspired, we'll meet Kelly and Christy Wright, founders of a new business called Golden Hello. To watch today's episode and the complete interviews of our guests, go to rochesterfirst.com/beinspired. For more great talk with Rochester's entrepreneurs, listen to Poder 97.1, Saturdays at 9 a.m. For Mauricio Riveros, I'm Julio Saenz. We'll see you next week on Be Inspired.